Pastor training is one of the most overlooked areas of missions, even though it is a foundational aspect of the Christian calling. Ephesians 4:11 through 12 shows God's model for how the work of ministry is accomplished. Pastors and church leaders must equip the saints to serve the church, proclaim the gospel, and bring ministries of mercy to the perishing. However, if pastors are not properly trained, then their ability to effectively equip the church is greatly hindered, significantly limiting the church's ability to fulfill the Great Commission. There are an estimated 3 million untrained pastors in the world. Further, church growth estimates indicate that 1,000 more trained pastors are needed daily. Even if every Bible college and seminary around the world were filled to capacity, this need would not be met. This raises the question, what can be done?
Hello, I'm Dennis Mock, the founder and chairman of Bible Training Center for Pastors. I conducted a pastors conference in Mombasa, Kenya in 1988. What I learned to my astonishment was that none of them had any Bible college or seminary training. To my further amazement, I soon learned that 85% of the pastors in the world had no formal training. Unlike the other professions like law, medicine, architecture, etc., which require training and certification, you could just decide to become a pastor. To remedy that situation seemed like an impossible task. God arranged for me to be able to develop and write a 10-course, 520-hour curriculum that could be used to train these pastors.
Over the last 30 years, God has grown the seed of Dennis's vision for training a classroom of pastors in Kenya into something that he never could have imagined. By God's grace, the BTCP curriculum has been translated into more than 30 languages. Approximately 60% of the world's population can receive theological training through BTCP in their own language.
We started BTCP training almost 26 years ago in Nepal. There are thousands of our graduates are working across the country, and more than 4,000 are in leadership position. Many of our graduates are also running BTCP, BTCL training for their disciple in their respective ministry field across the country.
We are training pastors and leaders, not only for the local ministry, but for the mission field too. Most of them are actively involved in pastoral ministry and leadership in different churches in Venezuela and abroad. Since we adopted the BTCP program, 21 new churches have been planted. That BTCP has been a real blessing and has caused a great impact in our churches, in our country, and to the ends of the earth.
Through the provision of God and a commitment to local multiplication, BTCP's influence has grown from one class of 20 students to over 150,000 graduates.
I've been using the BTCP for over a decade now. It is so helpful. Recently, I've been doing pastoral ministry with a group of church planners, and that book has been so impactful. They're learning about the priorities that they're supposed to have, how to prepare a biblical message, and it transforms their churches, and in turn, that transforms their communities. When I get these manuals into the hands of people, after they've been trained, they go and reproduce. My last class, 6 graduates, 4 of them immediately went and started classes of their own. And that's very typical.
We planted our church back in '96, and in the beginning we argued many times because of some biblical issues. But after studying the BTCP books with the elders and workers in the church, we saw that we have not so many discussions like before. That's a good thing. Since we had studied the BTCP books with the elders in our church, I realized that the quality of the preaching ministry was improved a lot. The teaching now is more clear and more biblical. Comparing the church now and 22 years ago, I see great changes.
Through God's leading, the BTCP curriculum is designed to overcome financial, geographic, and educational barriers, expanding its reach from just one country to over 100 countries across the globe.
I'm happy because after being trained in the BTCP, it has helped me to train my church leaders and the local people. At first, they were understanding much cults in them, and there were false prophets, but now they can understand and they can read the Bible systematically because I'm teaching them through the Bible.
Hello, I'm Mrs. Lynette Wasike. I'm a student. I'm glad going through this session, and it is helping me, and I know it will impact many women outside there for the glory of the living God. Amen.
As a pastor's wife, I'm sure I'm not alone in that I have been to so many Bible studies, but never really felt fully equipped for the ministry that God had called me to. Over time, BTCP expanded their vision and their ministry to include pastors' wives and church leaders, so that I myself became a student. It has been a joy for me to watch how the Lord has used this training in the lives of women.
I'm super excited for BTCP. Before, I was under cults, under false pastors and teachers, but now I can interpret the Bible. I can read for myself from Revelation to Genesis, from Genesis to Revelation. I can able even to defend my faith, to go out and evangelize, doing God's work, and people are benefiting from this BTCP.
There are still many pastors and leaders who don't have knowledge about how to read Bible, how to preach appropriate biblical messages, and have not had the benefit of formal theological training like BTCP. So this training is very much effective and greatly needed in our country.
May we challenge you to join us in this work of training and equipping pastors and church leaders around the world. As the Apostle Paul says, we are indeed co-laborers with God in this effort.